All right, good morning everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Ali Pabrai, your instructor here for this program on Certified Security Compliance Specialist. We're very excited about this program. It's the only program in the world actually today that's very focused on two primary areas: information security and compliance regulations. Not just here in the US, but also what are some of the international regulations that we need to increasingly be more aware of. It might impact some of the decisions we make with respect to security practices inside our own organizations. The module that I'd like to present to you this morning is a case study on ISO 27001. ISO is the International Standards Organization, and this is the new standard that was published in 2005. It is the standard that's used all across the world increasingly as the key benchmark for organizations to meet with respect to requirements for minimum capabilities that the organization should have in the area of information security. We'll be looking closely at what are the broad objectives of this standard, what are some of the major sections of this international standard, and then we'll take a very close look at the defined security requirements. Now, many of you in this room today come from different industries with different experiences. Some are very strong in healthcare. We typically get a lot of individuals from healthcare. The financial industry is another one. And typically, the financial industry has been a few years ahead in terms of actual practices with respect to information security. We typically also see individuals from the government, federal, state, county, and so the information that we'll be covering actually impacts all types of verticals, especially if your organization is working with maybe business associates that might be outside of the US, or you might be a large multinational organization where your network spans more than the country. This standard provides a model, and those 6 bullets are extremely important. They provide the framework for the 27001 standard, provides a model for establishing, implementing, operating. Monitoring is really important. Think of the term auditing when you think of monitoring. Maintaining, because security is not a destination, it's a journey. It's very much process driven. And improving. So one of the areas that we see organizations typically struggle with in the area of information security is the ability to detect on a timely basis security incidents. Now, that's the phrase that's used in the industry, security incidents. I tend to think of it as a little different, as security intelligence, because you can learn tremendously from those incidents. Those incidents are what are providing information, pieces of information, valuable information to you to improve the security capabilities of your organization, to make your organization more resilient in the future, stronger, if you will, with respect to vulnerability. So maintaining and improving go to the core of what is the framework that you will be using for your information security management system. So those 4 words, information security management system, go to the heart of the ISO 27001 standard. So if you were to do any work in information security outside of the US, this is the security Bible, if you will. And very important to gain knowledge about this system, the information security management system. Every organization needs to determine what's the system that's going to work for its own environment. You're going to tailor one that's going to be customized for your environment. And the application, identification, and interactions, because everything's a mesh, the interactions of a system of processes. That's another important word on this slide. Defining processes so that those are repeatable activities inside your organization, and the management can be referred to as a process approach. So really the emphasis with respect to information security when you look at the 27001 standard is to think of security as being process oriented. Right? Questions, comments? Is everyone excited? It all comes down to, when you look at the 27001 standard, plan, do, check, act model. And we'll be looking at that model closely because this is something that you could adapt. You don't need to follow every piece of this, but there might be elements of this that you think might be valuable for your organization. Plan, understanding an organization's security requirements. Every business is different. You want to make sure your security priorities are aligned with two things: your technology priorities second and your business priorities first. So clearly articulating what are your business priorities, what's the business that we are in that we can succeed with, and then developing and identifying your technology priorities and taking that a step further and establishing your security priorities. That sets the dial tone for information security inside your organization. And the need to establish policy and objectives for information security. It's an area that organizations struggle with. Defining policy seems like an easy thing to do, but it does take a lot of thought, effort to maintain and manage those policies inside your organization. To implement controls. When you see this word controls, if anyone talks to you with respect to security controls, that should trigger one word in your mind: countermeasures. What are the security capabilities that we are going to be deploying inside our organization to make our organization more resilient to the threats and vulnerabilities that it might be exposed to manage the organization's information security risks. So controls and risks. Controls are what counteract risk, minimize risk, so you're left with some residual risk that your upper management, executive management, has agreed to accept. That becomes really, really important. So you need to plan, that's your strategy, your policies. Do identify the controls, the countermeasures that you'll be using inside your organization. So what's an example of a control? Firewall systems. Everyone has a firewall system. But you'd be surprised, our business, we do audits every day. Some locations, somewhere in the US, I've got my team out there auditing the facility. And we used to do internal, external wireless until we discovered in one of our audits that the firewall system itself these days has rules and filters that the organization is no longer aware of. Was set by an administrator some years back. That person is no longer with the team. You've been putting in more stuff into this firewall system, and no one really knows the state of the configuration and the capabilities of that firewall system. So we've now added that to our service. So go back and take a look at that primary line of defense, your core perimeter defense element inside your organization. So that's what we're talking about, controls. What are the controls, and are they actually delivering and working as they expected to, as you expect them to inside your organization?